Hello, my name is Asaf. Greetings from Berlin. In today's video, I interviewed three tourists, normal, regular people, about dark tourism. I intentionally chose people who are not tour guides. They are not tourism researchers. They're not experts on dark tourism. I did that because one of the problems for many tourism researchers is that when tourists go home, it is nearly impossible to really get the views, get their opinions and what they think about different topics. It's almost like the holy grail of tourism research. And I thought today is kind of or now it's kind of a special situation that we're all isolating ourselves in our houses, and it would be good to use the time, have a little bit of a video chat and hear people's opinions. The term dark tourism was coined in 1996. By now we have a variety of definitions, from Malcolm Foley and John Lennon to definitions by Richard Sharpley and Philip Stone and Tony Seaton. For the research in Berlin, I chose to adapt a definition from 2005 by Priss and Price. So my definition of dark tourism is travel and visitation to sites associated with death, acts of violence, tragedy, and scenes of death and crimes against humanity. But what I did is I also broached the topic a little bit further with the people that you will see in the interview. I hope you will find it interesting. Thank you for watching. There we go, we're on. Hi, so tell us your name.
Hi. My name is Kayla, and I'm in Ottawa, Canada.
Right, and you're self-isolating as well, right? Right now?
Yes, we have been for just over a week now.
A week, and still okay, still alive, still good.
Still alive. We've moved into a lovely new home last year, so we're glad we're self-isolating here and not in the condo from before.
That's wonderful. That's really good timing. Great. So let's start with the questions. So you've been to Berlin before, and I'm sure you've traveled in other places. What does dark tourism mean to you? What do you think when you think about that?
Right. So actually, it's a term that I've only recently become familiar with. But obviously, my understanding of it is essentially touring places that are either atrocities from the past or just places that make you think of death or make you think of evil in some way.
Okay.
Camps, things like that.
Okay. Why, I don't know, did you ever go to places like that, by the way? Have you been?
Yes, I've been to Sachsenhausen.
Okay, so for those who are not aware, Sachsenhausen is a former Nazi concentration camp about 35 kilometers north and a little bit east of Berlin. Okay.
Yeah, and I guess I've also been to the Anne Frank house
in Amsterdam.
Museum. Probably also be
sure.
Like that.
And why did you go to these places? Why would you like to go if you went again in the future?
I mean, it's part of the history. It's interesting to reflect on what's happened in the past, even if it's horrible. It just reminds you how lucky you are. And you can, of course, learn from any type of past experiences. You know, it doesn't have to be just pleasant ones. So to me, it's just seeing a part of history. And sometimes being sad, being introspective is really beneficial. Okay,
interesting. And do you think you got something good also from those visits? Something, I don't know if that's what you expected, but
well, yeah, I mean, it was especially the Anne Frank museum or house, whichever you want to call it.
Yeah.
It was just really moving. I mean, obviously having read her diary and just, wow, like just kind of putting yourself in her place. And, you know, I mean, of course it's very depressing, but it's also just, she lives on, you know, because of that, because of her diary. And so it's inspiring as well. And then in terms of visiting Sachsenhausen, yeah, I think it gives you an opportunity to be reflective on the world and what people are capable of. And also feel lucky for our current circumstances for the most part. I mean, there's still horrible things going on in the world.
Sure. But you get a little perspective on your life, on the world, kind of, you say it's kind of changing a little bit also your, I don't know how to say, worldview like that, in a way?
I don't know if it changed my worldview. I think it's just really interesting to put yourself into an experience, to just be, I like being reflective, I guess, just introspective and, I don't know, sad things, I think, trigger that more so than happy things. When you're happy or you're experiencing something fun, you're kind of in the moment. You're not really reflecting on greater issues necessarily. Like if you just go to an art gallery, like you get a lot out of that as well, but of course you might not be as introspective or learn as much about, human nature, because we're good people. You can understand that. So
okay. Tell me, you've when you were in Sachsenhausen, were you there on your own or with a friend or in a group setting?
I honestly don't remember. Did you go with me?
It's possible we may have been together, but I don't actually remember.
I don't remember.
But then tell me kind of just what you think. Is there, if you visit a site like this, a museum, in the most horrible place, it used to be a concentration camp, is there a type of behavior from other tourists that you would consider that is unacceptable or kind of a violation of ethics or morals of human behavior? Do you think there is something that you would say, no, that's my line, this is where I cross the line, I draw the line, I don't want people to behave like that?
Yeah, I think when you're in a place like that, you should just be respectful, and it's a somber atmosphere, so not behaving loudly or boisterously, just being respectful to the past of what's happened there. I do remember reading about a time, I think there was children playing or something on top of the monument in Berlin, the Jewish monuments.
The memorial for the murdered Jews of Europe with the slabs.
Yes, yeah. Mm-hmm. And I remember reading about that, and it was really interesting because I think that's a little different. And I believe it was even the artist maybe that spoke out saying, no, I'm happy that people are bringing joy to this monument because it's because it represents such a sad thing. But I think that's different because, well, first of all, it's children, but also it's to represent what happened. But I think when you're in the actual place, when you're, at a concentration camp, you should just be respectful of what literally happened there. And
so in other words, there's a difference if something is like a commemorative art is very abstract to a place where things actually happened.
Well, I mean, I still think you should be respectful at the monument. I'm just thinking of that incident because it actually happened. But I think also because that was children, it's a little different because children are just joyful. And so it's a nice sort of juxtaposition of what the monument represents, but where we are now. Okay. That just popped into my mind. But I think in both instances, being respectful is the appropriate way to act.
Okay, fair enough.
Aren't jumping on the monument.
I have to say, when I first saw it years ago, when I moved to Berlin, it looked a bit like a playground. I didn't know what it is, and I'm sure children do as well if they don't know. So I understand what you're saying. Last question: what do you think about the future of dark tourism in terms of potentials, or maybe, I don't know, if you want to say even something about the corona crisis, because there are going to be changes, I guess, in the world. A lot of people are talking about that. What do you think?
I don't know. I think it's hard to think about anything current in that way. It's hard to, just obviously we've been mostly talking about the Holocaust. It's such a moment in history that's so easy to put into this context. It's kind of anything associated with that, I assume, would be considered dark tourism.
Right, that's right. Yeah.
But that being, decades ago, because I'm not sure how the world has really treated more current atrocities, because there have been many, and a lot of them happen in places that probably still aren't necessarily the happiest places on earth. Yeah. So I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, this is a health crisis. So, yeah, I could see some sort of commemorative things for it happening in the future. But it's weird too because it's worldwide. So I don't know. I'm not an expert on this. So
no. It's on the contrary. I like to ask questions from people who are not experts just to see. Because I mean, we don't have a crystal ball, right? We're all kind of in a guessing game right now, and I'm just trying to think if people would go to Wuhan province in China to visit, where the, they would say, oh, where the corona started, I want to see that, and makes me want to ponder a little bit about how people in this province in Wuhan in the city would feel, right? So that's things like that, but. Yeah, hard to guess. I'm just kind of probing your mind for that. But yeah, I think otherwise, thank you so much for participating in that. Yeah.
Thanks for asking me. Hopefully it was useful responses.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very, very interesting to hear what people think about that. Thanks very much.
Right.
Okay, let's start. So tell me your name first.
My name is Bojana. That's my first name. Bojana Slepčević, actually.
Excellent. So yeah, I actually know that, but just for the for the video. And where are you right now, Bojana?
I live in Belgrade, in Serbia. So that's where I'm speaking from.
So before we actually start with the questions about dark tourism, just quickly, are you isolating or quarantined right now in Belgrade?
We are like self-isolating, but because that's the rules here right now. We are not completely confined to our homes, but we're like obeying the rules right now.
Staying away from people, being responsible.
Yes, trying to.
Good. Okay, so tell me, we want to talk about dark tourism. What does that mean to you? What do you know, if you have a definition?
I am familiar with a definition of dark tourism, and I've read it some time ago. Like, it is a visiting of places that have some kind of dark history. But for me, in my personal definition, it's any kind of tourism that provokes unpleasant and sad or angry emotion within me.
Okay.
So in my definition, it's not defined by the place that I visit. It's defined by the emotion it provokes in me.
Okay,
that's why the dark tourism is individual for me.
Okay, so you know what? Maybe that would lead us to the next question. If you've been to a place like that already, what motivated you to go?
I've been to some places. Mostly the places from the Second World War, because I come from ex-Yugoslavia, and we have lots of these spots in the ex-country, and we were kind of obliged to visit them during our elementary school. It made a part of the curricula.
Okay.
So it was mainly motivated by knowledge.
As a school student or pupil?
Yes, as a school student. And now, as an adult, when I choose to visit spots like that, like parts of Berlin or similar, it's because I want to be informed. Okay. I want to form my opinions, and I want to form my even emotion when I am informed. That's my motivation.
I see. And if you would visit a place like that, or you've been to some places, like you say now as an adult, would there be, when you look at other tourists, would there be a certain behavior that you consider unacceptable or a violation of the ethics of some codes of behavior that maybe you think there should be some codes of behavior in a place like that?
I think there should. I think that people should be informed beforehand.
By the management? By the management
like in written form, you give to people a piece of paper where they can read on what is commonly acceptable behavior in order not to violate other people in a sense of their serenity, in the sense of their emotion, in the sense what they wanted to get by visiting that place.
Okay.
So somewhere I read that the limits of personal freedom are where the freedom of another person begins.
Okay. I see.
That would be, if we follow that principle, yes, of course, we are there to live the emotion, maybe even to express the emotion,
Okay.
but to the limit that it doesn't jeopardize or it doesn't make another person feel uncomfortable.
Okay, but that could be problematic. Would be allowed to maybe take a selfie. That could be okay, but not necessarily take a selfie and smile and dance. Would there be a difference like that for you?
Or take a selfie with another people around because maybe they don't want to be in the photo.
Okay.
Maybe they don't want their feelings be immortalized.
I see.
Maybe they're just not comfortable being exposed in that way where they're living through a certain emotion.
Okay, understand. Good, thank you. Last question, and that's maybe a difficult one because nobody really knows, but what do you think could be the future of dark tourism, especially after the corona crisis, especially in the future? We don't really know how tourism would be like in a few months, a year, who knows? What do you think could be the future of dark tourism? Or the potential even? Is there such a thing?
Okay, the potential, I understand. In this period, during this period of virus and everything, there is a lot of emotion being accumulated in people that they can't express.
Mm-hmm.
It's the sadness, it's the fear, it's the anger, it's the not being able to go outside and maybe process that emotion. So I think that the dark tourism can offer a kind of catharsis after this period.
Okay.
If these emotions that are not expressed, but they have to come out somewhere, the dark tourism can offer a channel for that.
Okay, that sounds almost optimistic.
Yeah, it can be. It really can be optimistic because it can be a kind, not only that we are interested to see the places that are, under the umbrella of dark tourism, but it can really be useful for everybody, for the society even. I don't know. That's just my view.
Absolutely what I'm looking for. Bojana, thank you so much for this. Stay healthy. And
it's really my pleasure.
Thank you. Hello. Okay, we're on. So tell us your name first.
Hello. Yes. Hi, Asaf. I'm Alex Haskell.
And where are you from again?
From Switzerland.
From Switzerland. Good. I actually know this, but just for the video.
Yes.
And how are you doing? How are you doing in isolation? Everything okay?
For me, everything is okay. Actually, I'm doing fine. I'm at my home. I do
your work.
I do what I like.
That's good.
No, for me it's good. Of course, for a lot of people, have a very difficult situation, and I hope it will end. Yes, very soon.
As we all do.
I'm fine.
As we all do, for sure. Good. So let's dive right into the questions. Let's start with the basic stuff. What is dark tourism for you? What's the definition, or what do you think this is?
For me, there are actually two kinds of dark tourism, and I'm really not an expert, so I'm sure you can explain it much better to me. But on one hand, I think you have, I don't even know if you call this dark tourism, but I don't know. I remember going in some cities in Europe, you have now all this kind of torture museum or hostel in a jail or whatever. So this is actually I don't know if we call this dark tourism, but it's quite this kind of cheap or go somewhere where you don't really know what happened and feel it's something special, and there's something a little bit pornographic, and it's usually quite commercial and not really interesting. But I guess what the other kind of dark tourism is probably dealing with the sides of memory. So maybe to tell you, you know it, I'm a historian, and I dealt also with Argentina, especially with the history of Argentina, but also lived a couple of years in Berlin, and in both cases I was quite, of course, confronted with place where atrocities happened and took place, and I have been in a couple of parts of the world in these places, there were dark places. If this was dark tourism, if this is the appropriate word, I don't know, but for me, dark tourism is actually when you go to places where it's obvious that it has a history, where this history is somehow present, and people feel that this place is also haunted by this history.
Okay, and tell me from your perspective, what would be your motivation to go to a place like this, or if you have a picture in mind of a place you've been to, like we have next to Berlin, we have the Memorial Site and Museum of Sachsenhausen. I'm sure you've been there. Why did you go there?
Yeah, I've been to different places, and of course in this specific case in Germany, it was also indeed related to my research, but I've been in other places, for instance.
Why did you go?
On a holiday in a place, for instance, in Cambodia, and I went to the so-called killing fields. And again, I didn't feel that this is a tourism in a way to say, I go there just to visit. It was for me also a bit too, I heard about it before and I wanted to see what it is. But the motivation is, and that to be in a place where something happened and to see the contrast between how these places are today and to know what happened in the past is a way to approach to this history. And it's also, and this is for me often even more interesting, to better understand how others relate. So how this history is transmitted to others, and to also reflect my own relation to a place to the way others relate to that place.
Okay, so that's actually a good segue to the next question. If you've been to the killing fields or you've been to former concentration camps, is there a type of behavior of, from other tourists perhaps, behavior that you would consider unacceptable or kind of an ethical violation or something that really disrupts the experience of the place?
It's, for me, a quite difficult question, because especially as these places are very horrible, people have very different approach to these feelings. And I don't feel I'm in a place to be somewhere and saying, okay, your approach is the wrong one and you should behave like this or you should behave like this. What obviously there is all this discussion about people making selfies and so on, and we must say that's the way how people relate to places. People make selfies on actually every important moments they are, so probably they will also to do it there. So it somehow, it depends how it's made, how it's situation. Another behavior which I think it's really problematic, these places are not made that you feel morally better than others. So sometimes also bad behavior can be going to such a place and telling others this is the right way, this is the wrong way. However, I expect from everybody that he somehow reflect where he is or she is, and that it's not just a list where you said, okay, I've been there, so now I know I've done this for my life and now I don't care anymore.
Okay, that's an interesting point, because it's also what could be the purpose of such a place, and it kind of also brings me to the last question of today, and maybe if you want also with a reference of the situation that we have right now, what do you think could be the future of dark tourism, or is there a certain potential that we I don't know, we global society or we in particular countries can gain from that?
I think people always, in all situations, are looking for some meaning and some relation to the past. So these places always will attract people who want this kind of meaning, who wants to go somewhere special, where hoping they will get something from that. So on a very abstract level, I don't think they will disappear, but places can change. It depends what people consider relevant and what they consider less relevant. As you certainly know, some places were important in the past and nobody cares. But the other thing, and this is we are very much used to live in a world where to say, oh, I want to see how Chernobyl is, and I can go in a plane, and tomorrow afternoon, at least if there is no COVID-19, I will be in Chernobyl. And if the next day I say, oh, I want to see this place, I go on a plane, and then I will see this. We don't know if this is quite new.
Yeah.
Before you needed months of preparation. We don't know if this will be possible in the future. However, what I'm sure, to be physically in a place is not replaceable by being virtually of a place. So while we need to think about alternatives of teaching, of showing what happened in this place, the personal approach, I'm not sure if so many people as today will be able to do it in the future, even it's still a minority in the humanity.
Yeah.
But we need to, it will not depend on only the history or on the sites, it will depend how in the future people have tourism.
Yeah, I think we're all curious about that, but yeah, first of all, Alex, thank you so much for participating today. It was great to see you. Yeah, stay healthy and safe, and keep on the good spirits and the good mood.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Alex. Bye-bye.
It was a great pleasure.
Thanks.